Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Is It Just Me with Donnie B. And either Donnie B's voice has gotten really, really low, or my name must be Nathan Ivy. Hey, listen, Donnie loves doing the show, and she would love to be with you today. But of course, we know she is a very busy professional woman. She's an attorney. And unfortunately, she had called away at the very last minute, but we wanted to make sure we came back with a broadcast with you. She'll be back in live next Friday. And if you can stand it, until then, you got me, Nathan Ivy, one man, one microphone. But of course, this is not the Nathan Ivy Show. This is the Is It Just Me podcast with Donnie B. We had an excellent conversation with you last week, and we want to make sure we keep the momentum going. And if you'd like to call into the program today, you can do so at 513-873-7134. Good morning, everybody. Really good afternoon. I'm so used to saying good morning. Is It Just Me with Donnie B is a podcast that is now a live broadcast that you can check out the live stream. We're streaming straight to Facebook, straight to our Send Digital Media page, and also to the Is It Just Me podcast group page as well. Now, if you haven't already joined to be a member so you can interact directly with Donnie B, please do so. Please do so this morning or this afternoon. Let me throw the number out, 513-873-7134. You can use that number if you want to call into the show today. And I'll be with you for no longer than 30 minutes this afternoon. Welcome. Glad to... Now I'm getting super phone calls. Welcome. Glad to have you. Come on in. I know you were expecting a much more attractive and pretty face than this mug right here. But my name is Nathan Ivy. I'm in for Donnie B today. She'll be back with you next Friday. Good afternoon. Come on in. Now listen, if you want to share your thoughts, I'll give you the number already, 513-873-7134. You can also see it at the ticker at the bottom of the screen here as well if you want to call into the show. I'll be talking about numerous things, but primarily I want to get your thoughts about the presidential debates. That's what I want to get your thoughts about this afternoon. And in particular, I have a question for you. Who was the most woke of the presidential candidates? Now, of course, Wednesday was the first round. There are 20 Democrat candidates, all vying for your attention, all vying for your vote, all hoping that they'll win the Democrat nomination and have a chance to go head-to-head with Donald Trump. I don't know how you feel about Donald Trump. That's your particular opinion. But I want to know, who was the most woke? If you watch the debates, who was the most woke? That term is very, very popular these days after Maxine Waters. But who was the most woke of all the candidates in your opinion? I'm going to put that question out to you. If you watch the debates,
what are you talking about, man?
Then I know you certainly have an opinion. And if you didn't watch the debates, perhaps you watched some clips of the show, you watched some clips of the proceedings, and you've got an understanding of what actually went down. Now, before and as I'm waiting for your comments to come in, last week we had a really interesting conversation. I want to remind you, it was the first part of a multi-part series, Know Your Rights, Donnie B. And she was talking about, the rights that parents have as it relates to their children and dealing with law enforcement. And if you haven't seen or heard that podcast, you can also go to the Is It Just Me podcast group and you can check it out there. Please like and share that. It is very, very valuable information. And I'm here to tell you that we didn't just leave it as a conversation. My personal motto, and I know that Donnie B feels the same way, we're all about action, moving from outrage to action. And if people are outraged about what they see, as is Donnie B, I've talked with her extensively about this, then we want to offer some solutions to the local scene, to the political scene. We want to offer a way for people to interact with the politics and the politicians that we are so outraged about. Okay. And I do know that there's been conversations with some elected officials, and I'll let Donnie B in the near future give you a heads up on what she's working on for the betterment of the community. But I just want to say, if you did not watch or hear the previous episode 5, it is a must watch. You must check that out. And you can check it out at the Is It Just Me podcast page. And you can also check it out at Send Digital Media on Facebook. Send Digital Media, New Urban Voice. in the city of Cincinnati, New Black Media. All right. Good afternoon to you. You can see the number there scrolling at the bottom. Give us a call if you feel like it. My question is really simple. I got a real simple question for you. All right. The Is It Just Me question for today is, who was the most woke of the Democrat candidates in your opinion? Who impressed you the most? Who stood out? Who shocked you? Who made you think second twice? I mean, who maybe wasn't on your radar screen, but now they are because of their performance during the debates? I want to get your thoughts about that. Now, you got a couple ways you can interact with the show. You got a bunch of ways you can interact. You can leave comments in numerous locations depending on wherever is best for you. Now, of course, we are streaming live audio on Spreaker. If you go to Spreaker right now at Sin Digital Media and you go to Is It Just Me podcast, you can listen to, and what I would say, if you're an audio person, then subscribe to the Is It Just Me podcast on Spreaker and you'll get a notification whenever we go live, okay? If you're somebody who is more into video, you just like the interactivity of video, that's more who you are, well, then, of course, you can go to the Is It Just Me podcast page on Facebook, and you can watch all of the streams that we put up, and you can check it out there. You can leave comments. I'll be jumping around and checking out comments in all the different locations. Not only are we up on Facebook in the Is It Just Me podcast page, but we're also up on Facebook as Sin Digital Media, and I'm personally streaming it on my page as well. And as a matter of fact, just for this episode, and I'm moving more and more to this with Sin Digital Media, we're up on YouTube as well. Okay, you can check us out on a multitude of places. If you're on Twitter, great. Got no problem with it. You can find us on Twitter as well. You can just search for Sin Digital Media and please follow. And if you're a Twitter person, whenever you want to check out the Donnie B podcast, boom, you just go to the Sin Digital Media page and you can watch the live stream. Again, if you're just tuning in, like, wait a minute, that's not Donnie B. You're right. You're right about that. I am not Donnie B. My name is Nathan Ivy, and I'm her producer, and I'm in for her today. Again, she wishes everybody a great weekend, and we all know that she is working hard in the community. She's a hardworking professional Black woman, and of course, sometimes things happen, and we totally understand. I wanted to make sure we kept our continuity, and we believe in our connection that we have with you. And we wanted to make sure that we had some content up for you today. So 513-873-7134 if you want to share your thoughts on anything that you hear us discussing this morning. And again, I want to get back to it, or this afternoon. Again, I want to get back to it. As you can see up on the screen, this question for today is, who is the most woke of the Democrat candidates, in your opinion? Have you paid attention to the debates? Well, let me tell you why this is important. It's important because some people are like, it's too early. And you're right, it is very early right now. But it's never too early to get a sense of who these candidates are. It's never too early to get a sense of how they handle themselves under pressure. And quite honestly, you also get a sense of what's important to them. Now, as an African American, it has been really, really obvious that there's been one topic that has not been like the main topic. And just monitoring people from my own audience. If you don't know, I do a morning show here with Sin Digital Media from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., the Nathan Ivy Show. Feel free to check it out. But within my own audience and audiences where there are a lot of, Black people of color, there's been an overall feeling that there's been at least one topic that people feel like it should have been out there more, but it just wasn't. And that topic is reparations. Now, I don't know how you feel about reparations. You can feel however you feel. But I do know that within Democrat circles, there's been quite a lot of conversation about it over the last few months, quite honestly. Over the last few months, there's been quite a bit of conversation about that. And, I'll be honest with you, me personally, I've always been a little bit, I won't say suspicious. I'll say I've been skeptical about just how serious, I'll be honest with you, the Democrat Party, or really any political party, has been or really is in securing what people call reparations. Now, as a sidebar, I fully understand that reparations can come in a multitude of different ways. Reparations can come in the form of money, right? You get a check, or you get a direct deposit because direct deposit works good too. In some cases, it works even better, right? Automatically there on your debit card or your bank card. That works for me. And there's some who say the reparations can come in a sense of other ways, sort of like zero interest loans for ADOS. Are you aware what that means? ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves. There's a movement out there. And it's hard to figure out why this has been such a topic du jour for the Democrat Party. And again, there's a lot of skepticism. Some are saying that, the Democrats are trying to dog whistle with black folks. This is their way of trying to get our attention post-Obama. Could be true. Others are saying that, the Democrats are simply responding to what they are perceiving that the electorate cares about. And it's like, well, a lot of these politicians work on polling. They do polling, sophisticated polling to figure out what people care about and to figure out a lane for themselves. And I'm not really sure if reparations is polling really high outside of the black community. Here's one thing I'll say about reparations, and I want to make sure that people are careful about this. I've made this point many times before, but I'm sitting in for Donnie B today. This is the Is It Just Me podcast with Donnie B. She'll be back Friday. So one thing that people need to remember about reparations is, I support it. I think it's one of America's original sin. And that the debt to what people call, the descendants of slaves has yet to be paid. I think it'll be tremendous economically. But if we're serious about it, and if we're real about it, if we don't change some of the systems, the various systems at work in this country, then the impact of an economic windfall will be negligible. It'll be wiped away. So for instance, I think about the way that the system interacts with people of color right now, with African Americans and people of color. And what you've seen in a lot of instances is it's like a draining that happens. They run you through the legal system, right? Once you go through the legal system a few times, then the next thing you know, your bank account is affected. The next thing you know, you've got problems paying your mortgage. You got problems paying your rent. Your job might be affected. And the way I look at it is, if people, and there are some people out there that's one issue voters inside the black community, but if we get reparations, right? Let's say that happens, but the various systems that still afflict us are still there, then it'll almost wipe away the impact on that. What do you think? 513-873-7134. Somebody writes, be truthful. I watch absolutely zero debates thus far. I'm waiting for a smaller sample size. I get it. A lot of people are. I looked ahead, and there are going to be debates in September, and then every 2 months after that, leading and culminating up until April of 2020. So there are several debates. I mean, we got at least 6 more debates. And with each debate, you're going to see people being whittled down. The field's going to be narrowed down even more and more and more. And I understand it. People want to wait probably to 2020. You had 10 candidates on Wednesday night, and then another 10 candidates on Thursday night. And of course, last night was Thursday. Today is Friday. So last night you had Joe Biden. How do you feel about Joe Biden? Some people are calling him Uncle Joe. Does Uncle Joe have a race problem? I don't know. Some people are saying that he does. I do know he seems to be walking back and having to, go back and be answer questions about things he said previously, votes he took back in the 90s. And that's just the political system. The longer you're a politician, you rise in prominence in the party. But when you start to run for a top spot like president, well, then everything you said and did and voted for before you, and if you got a long career, that just gives potential more fodder for your enemies to find some dirt on you. And Joe Biden is dealing with that right now. He's dealing with that in a serious way. So a lot of folks are saying that, and in my opinion, see, the big thing for Thursday night, and that was last night in the debates, was which of the Democrat candidates other than Joe Biden was going to stand up and be a challenger to him. If you're the front runner, and that's the perceived front runner based upon polling, or maybe it's based upon the media, or maybe it's based upon the fact that Joe Biden was a part of the Obama administration. If you are on the stage with Joe Biden, what's your number one job? Take shots at Joe Biden. You want to prove to the world, you want to prove to the electorate that you are potentially the number one gunner. You're the next person. You're the number one challenger to what everyone is saying is the presumptive front runner. And from what I saw, I'm not going to tell you I saw every minute of it, but from what I saw, I would have to say that on Thursday night, then that was Kamala Harris. Like if I was a Democrat nominee, I would have much preferred to be on Thursday night because that's when Joe Biden is there. So you get the chance to juxtapose yourself between yourself and him in front of a live television audience. And I thought that if there was one name that stood out as a potential, most serious challenger of Joe, it'd have to be Kamala Harris. But what do you think? 513-873-7134. This is the Is It Just Me podcast with Donnie B. Donnie B will be back with you on Friday. All right, let me check. Let's go straight to the phones. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Ivy. This is your West Side Connection. I know you got on your producer hat today, filling in for Donnie B.
Yes, sir.
But I want to answer your question that you asked right before I go do my walking while retired. Woo, Mr. Ivy. What you saw last night in the debate, and I know you are politically savvy. You've been around politics for a long time. And I don't know if you remember the question or the scenario I proposed to you at the end of your show this morning about why would Kamala Harris this early, this is only the first debate, why would she go at Joe Biden so hard on the racial segregationist tip? I mean, to me, we all know that Joe Biden is still going to be the front runner come Monday morning. Am I correct?
He may. Yeah, he probably will be. But the thing is that if you're somebody other than Joe, you just want to put yourself out there as having a potential shot, right? That's all you want to do. You want to put yourself out there as well.
Okay, but she was already in the I'm not gonna say she was a front, but she was in that top 5. Okay,
right.
It's her, Pete Buttigieg.
See, there you go.
Elizabeth Warren. Come on, Nate. Everybody's saying it like that now.
No, they're not. No, they're not. It's just you. It's just you.
You refuse to hear it.
I refuse to hear it.
So you had Kamala, you had Mayor Pete, you had Elizabeth Warren, Bernie, and Uncle Joe.
Right.
Okay. Now, of course, we all know, Nate, who are the designated African American candidates. Okay. We already know it's Cory Booker and Kamala Harris. Okay.
Right.
And so in the first in the B team debate on Wednesday night, Cory Booker, no one brought up the reparations thing. Then last night, we get the white woman that nobody's ever heard of. She throws out the reparations, who was the first one to bite at it? And the only one that really could is Kamala Harris. Okay, so Nate, I'm asking you to put on your political operative hat and tell me, do you think Kamala Harris's internal polling people told her that she is starting to fall too far behind as far as the older black vote?
Listen,
because
yes and no. I don't know what they told her, but going into the debate, everybody knew that Kamala had to she had to sharpen a couple things. So she's already had to kind of go back and explain some comments that she had said initially. And then she needs to sharpen exactly what her focus is and speak clear. I think that's what she wanted to do. But again, the reason she went at Joe, that's what all of them were trying to do. If you're standing up there with Joe Biden, you want to take a shot at him.
Think about what you're saying. But Nate, the only one who could legitimately, within the Democrat, remember, like you said, The people, the Democrat Party or the DNC, Mr. Perez, they set everything up as far as these debates. Okay, so like you said, they don't want the party to look bad. So as a party, the only candidates that could actually go after Joe were Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. And more than likely, if Cory Booker had been on stage with Joe Biden, he would have done the same thing Kamala Harris would have done.
And so would have I. If I was on stage with Joe Biden running as a Democrat to get the presidential nominee, and I'm saying it's a Joe
African
Biden,
American,
African American or not African American. See, listen, I don't want to be in the top 5. I want to be in the top 2. When I come out of that debate on Thursday, I want to be in the top 2 if I'm somebody other than Joe Biden, right?
Oh, right, that's true. That's true. That's true.
So that answers your question.
Again, yes, it does, but it's almost like I said, is the glass half empty or is it half full? You saw the debate the way you saw it. I saw it the way I saw it. Mr. Majestic, he didn't see it at all, but he's a very well-informed person when it comes to politics. So he's up on the things that have been happening leading up to this debate. I mean, yeah, this very first debate. Now, obviously, Nate, some of the people we saw last night and on Wednesday night won't be on the stage at the very next debate. Okay, so again, I'm listening to what you're saying on your show and what you're saying today, filling in for Donnie B.
Right.
That it's something about this whole reparations issues, Nate, that's rubbing people the wrong way. Okay, and maybe you can expound on this as well. Before they had the reparations hearings last week, most or a lot of black people that I know that you know thought reparations actually meant distributing checks to ADOS, all right? But then when they had the hearings, Nate, the politicians and the other people, they made it very clear that this was just about a bill to have commission a study about reparations. So I'm thinking, Nate, that's the problem now.
What's that?
So what's your take on that? I said, what do you think that's causing this whole thing with the reparations? Because do you think it's a dead issue? Do you think it's going to come back? Because a lot of people know, Nate, it's not about having a check.
Right. We know that. Hey, Drop, thanks for the call, man. I answer your questions. Appreciate it.
All right, bro. Peace.
Yeah, most def. Take it easy. The number is 513-873-7134. You can see it on the screen right now below me. 513-873-7134. This is the Is It Just Me podcast hosted by Donnie B. And I'll say it again. Donnie loves to be with you every Friday. And we know she is a hardworking professional black woman. She's an attorney. And she has some business, very, very, very sensitive business to take care of today. And so I'll be filling in for her today. She'll be back on Friday. Well, let me answer your question. Is it a dead issue? I don't think it's a dead issue. It depends on what you mean by dead. If you mean dead in the sense like in a reasonable amount of time within the next, say, 4-year cycle, that we're going to see a major push from Congress. Because again, if reparations ever happens, if that's something you really care about, it's going to be Democrats and Republicans that have to get behind that. Remember that. You're going to have to get Republicans involved. It'll be Republicans in the Congress and in the Senate that will push that. So is it a dead issue? No, it's not a dead issue. Number one, it's a debt that's never been paid. So it's not a dead issue, okay? People say that it's America's original sin, right? So no, it's not a dead issue. You got ADOS and a plethora of people out there who, for them, this is like a number one issue. You know, there's a whole bunch of Facebook groups that are dedicated to these kind of things. I was in one such group within the last, off and on all week long, just to kind of monitor, what different people think. And there's some people saying that they're not going to vote for a candidate. I guess I even read, hey, we'll have Donald Trump again. They're not going to vote for a Democrat candidate that is not openly in support of reparations, which you didn't really hear a lot of conversation from or about over the last two sessions. It didn't come up at all on Wednesday, and there were a lot of people in certain circles that were talking about it. And the reason why, people of color, black people, African Americans, the reason why they focus on the Democrat Party with this and not the Republican Party is because if you look at the numbers, that's where a lot of those votes have gone to that party. So those folks are looking for an investment. So back to your question, is it a dead issue? I don't think it's a dead issue. Is it an issue that's going to take many years? It's going to take a grassroots, push. It's going to take support from Democrats and Republicans. Yeah. If let's see, last night it was brought up by one candidate, white female, Marianne Williamson, who is a self-help author. Her plan is that over 20 years, she says in her plan that between $200 billion and $500 billion should be dispersed to the descendants of slaves. Now, what we got to understand is, it seems so open and shut, like, hey, just cut the check, right? Not so easy. Wait a minute. Because who's a descendant of slave? Like, what percentage of your lineage has to be directly drawn from the descendants of slaves before you get a check? Is it the paper bag sort of test? Is that going to fly in 2019? Probably not. So I think there are a lot of gray areas that need to be, worked out before, we even get to that day. So I don't think it's a dead issue. I don't think that any issue that the people, the electorate, care about can be and should be classified as a dead issue. I don't believe that at all. I believe that it's going to take a lot more than just a Democrat candidate saying they're supporting it for us to get a realistic push on it. But that's just my take. So who, in your opinion, if you watch the debates, is the most woke, in your opinion, of all of the candidates, in your opinion? 513-873-7134. I see a lot of likes and shares. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah. Earlier today I was on the Nathan Ivey show. I was talking with Charmaine McGuffey, who is running for Hamilton County sheriff. She's running as a Democrat. And she brought up Donnie B. She brought up Donnie B specifically, and also Rodney Harris. And she gave them a lot of props because of the role that they played going back to the Ray Tensing trial. And apparently they were working directly with the sheriff department to make sure that there was adequate, access, for the public, and then also access for the media as well, which, much appreciated. Shout out to Donnie B. As I said, this is the Is It Just Me podcast with Donnie B. Donnie B says she wishes everybody a great weekend. She is a very busy woman. I appreciate her, working us here at Sin Digital Media, but she wasn't able to be with us today. And of course, I'm sitting in for her today. This is the Is It Just Me podcast, not the Nathan Ivey show. This is the Is It Just Me podcast. I know you see my face, but it's the Is It Just Me podcast. Who is the most woke of the Democrat candidates? Now, this is my question for you. Who is the most woke of the Democrat candidates that you saw in either of the first two televised live debates? I will say, and again, not to be mean, but I will say that there's numerous people that really have no shot whatsoever. They've got no shot whatsoever. But I think it's great to have different opinions up on the stage because it can push the conversation in different directions. Again, what do you think? 513-873-7134. Good morning or good afternoon to you, Majestic. Somebody writes, why did Kamala go so hard at Biden? I think I read that. Already. We all know there are three types of people you keep broke: the poor, the blacks, and y'all baby mamas. What? Right? Someone writes, you're losing when you have to constantly explain yourself. I don't see Biden winning. Well, Joe Biden has a lot of explaining to do, so to speak. He said some things and voted for some things that, people that I know, black folks that I know, are having a hard time reconciling. They got a real hard time with it. So the question is going to be, as it relates to Biden, for those people that have problems with them, is what's more important to you? Is it more important to get Trump out of office, or is it more important to have a perfect Democrat candidate? Now, me personally, I don't believe there are any perfect Democrat candidates. I don't believe there's any perfect Republican candidates. I think it's I don't think there are any perfect candidates. ever. There is no perfect candidate. You can be 100% with somebody, and you think, and then they vote a certain way, and you're kind of like, I didn't agree with that. I think the best you can get with is to find somebody who generally agrees with your viewpoint and generally agrees with your politics on the big issues. Because, even with somebody, it could be a family member that's in office, that's an elected official. It could have been somebody you came from the same womb. And it doesn't ensure that once they become an elected official, that they are going to 100% go the way that you want them to go. It just doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that at all. More comments, 513-873-7134. A lot of well-wishers. Thank you so much for being here. A lot of good folks. I know you tuned in to see Donnie B. She's not here today. She'll be back on Friday. She wishes everybody well. So you tell me. I want to get your thoughts about it. You tell me what you think about the debates. You tell me what you think about what you've seen so far, and which are the candidates that, for you, are kind of standing out. For me, last night, I didn't really change too much. Not too much changed for me. The views that I had before are very similar to the views that I have now. I haven't changed too much on that. I was favorable of a couple of candidates, and I'm still favorable of them. It didn't really change too much for me, but again, what about you? I want to know what you think. Two things I want to talk about as well, okay, as you kind of shift through your thoughts. Again, you can give me the call. You got the number. You can also check out the ticker at the bottom of the screen, and you can check out the number as well. But while I wait for that and you gather your thoughts, a couple other things that are on my radar screen as it relates to the Supreme Court that I think are very, very important things that we should be discussing. One is the fact that the Supreme Court has now made a decision as it relates to the U.S. Census. Again, this may or may not have been on your radar screen. I understand there's a lot more sizzle in other topics, but whether you know or you're aware of it, in 2020, the census is going to happen again. Okay, and that's where they're going to be calculating the population density of cities, counties, states. And the census is used to appropriate resources, long and short. It's used to appropriate resources. And the Trump administration wanted to add a citizenship question to the U.S. Census, which is something that hasn't happened since the 1950s. And the reason it hasn't happened is because all the smart people on this say that when you put a question about citizenship on the U.S. Census, it automatically alienates people. It automatically makes some people feel as if the government's trying to do something to them. I mean, here we are in the age of Trump, and we know that Trump is cracking down on what he perceives to be, illegal immigrants. So if you add a U.S. citizenship question to that, then are those individuals who may be here, as people say, illegally, are they going to be more or less likely to sign on to it? So the U.S. Census is not just about tabulating and calculating population density of American citizens. It's about calculating the population density of the people who live in this country right now. Okay? A lot of things go into that. Like I said, resources, congressional districts, a lot of it. Ask yourself this. If next year, when the U.S. Census folks came around and knocked on your door, said, hey, here's a reminder, make sure you go to this website and you do your due diligence, and you're going through the U.S. Census questionnaire, and you come to a question about U.S. citizenship, would you answer it? Would you answer that question? Or would you feel like that question is going to be used against you somehow? I mean, I think I've talked to African Americans who feel the same way. They're like, now you're getting too into my business. Getting way into my business. Hey, everybody, Carolyn, Pat, Daryl. Yes, I know you're expecting Donnie B, a much more attractive face than this face right here. Donnie will be back on Friday. And she wishes everybody a great weekend. She wishes you well. She's very, very busy and had to take care of some business. And I certainly understand. But we want to make sure we keep the continuity going with the Is It Just Me podcast. So you got me. You have to just, I know you got enough of me all day this morning. I know. I'm sick of me too. Trust me. I'm sick of hearing my voice too. I understand. But you've got me for today's Is It Just Me podcast. If you want to call in, the number is the same, 513-873-7134. So just imagine this. Imagine that next year with the U.S. Census, you get your questionnaire, you're online, you get your questionnaire, you get to a question that asks, well, are you a U.S. citizen? I'm here to tell you that there are even white folks born in America that would have a problem answering that. Now, as it turns out, this question was nothing more than a Republican plot. Okay, it was a Republican plot to use the U.S. Census to essentially try to gerrymander to some degree. Okay, where the resources are going to go. It was intended so people don't answer it, and I'm glad to see that the Supreme Court decided in this manner, which some people were a little bit surprised because of the current makeup of the court. It appears that the conservatives have a majority, but that's not what happened in this case. In this case, they decided, and it was quite interesting actually, that the language from the Supreme Court was very, 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 very strong. The language from the Supreme Court is essentially, I'm paraphrasing not too loosely, that the majority of the justices felt as if this was just some BS from the Trump administration. Get this, black folks, get this. The Trump administration was arguing that they needed to include a question about citizenship on the next census in 2020 because of the Voting Rights Act. Yeah. What? And the Supreme Court justices in their infinite wisdom saw right through it and they called it out. And this would have been a real problem for the community. Like, for instance, we're not even talking about the so-called folks who are not here legally, but just in the black community, there's still skepticism and a lot of trepidation about, completely filling out the U.S. Census. Still. Are you a U.S. citizen? Would have had a huge impact because there were some people who were like, look, let's boycott the U.S. Census. We'll show them. Well, if you boycott the U.S. Census and they tabulate and start to calculate the information, what that means is for the purposes of the U.S. Census, you would have been effectively invisible. You would have been invisible. And so when they start drawing the lines and defining where the money goes and where the population is, it would have been an imbalance, but the Supreme Court decided to stop it. Now, there were two Supreme Court decisions that I want to put in front of you, and I want this to be in your radar screen. I think this is very, very important. Very, very important. The other is gerrymandering. Okay, now I'm broadcasting live right now from Cincinnati, Ohio. Ohio is a heavily gerrymandered state. It's part of the reason and how the Republicans in the state of Ohio have been able to maintain their power. If you live in the Ohio 1st or the Ohio 2nd congressional district, you may already know what I'm talking about. So the Supreme Court looked at a case, and their decision, people are saying now, has been groundbreaking, right? Here's some of the headlines. Supreme Court green lights gerrymandering, right? Green lights gerrymandering? So without getting into all the weeds and the minutia, essentially as it relates to gerrymandering, in the most recent case, the Supreme Court decided that to even review it was outside of their boundary. So they're saying that this is outside of the boundaries of the Supreme Court, and that if this is going to be dealt with, you have to deal with it in some other cases. So in states in which they are heavily gerrymandered in a very partisan way, and think about that, what does that mean? Well, that means that there are many districts in Ohio and around the country where the constituents are not choosing their representative. They may think they are, but they're not really. In fact, the district, the itself, right? The representative is choosing the constituents because, some of these districts are so heavily gerrymandered. Okay. And I want to put this on your radar screen because I think it's very, very important to know what's going on. You may not believe it, but this all matters to you. This is so for people who are wondering, why am I not getting representation? Well, this is one reason why. You may live in a heavily gerrymandered state. This might be the reason why. I'll say it again. You may live in a very heavily gerrymandered state. Okay, think about that. I'm not sure where you are. I'm broadcasting live from Ohio, and this broadcast is going out to social media, YouTube, and beyond. And so I know there are no borders in terms of folks who might see this. But think about it. Think about it. Is that the reason why our neighborhoods, our communities, our schools are not reflecting the attitudes of the people? Is that why? Got some comments here. Brian Taylor writes, shout out to the show in progress, by the way. Thank you so much. Brian writes, another way to look at it for people who are citizens is if they ask you, if you've ever smoked Lala or if you have outstanding tickets, that would make a person feel uncomfortable. Answering, you'd say, what does that have to do with me identifying as being in the United States? Yeah. Robert writes, love the show, champ. Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you, Carolyn. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Donnie B will be back next Friday. I'm just standing in. And I know she wishes she could be here, but she is very busy. We appreciate her being with us here with Sin Digital Media and the Just Me podcast. I know you tuned in to hear a far better voice than this one and see a far more attractive face than this one. I know I keep saying it. I don't want to disappoint you, but we want to keep the show going. Appreciate it. For folks who are listening and you're inside the Chop Shop, you're inside the chat room, or you are maybe listening on one of the various Facebook platforms and pages, a couple questions for you. Let me put it back up on the screen here again. My primary question for you today is, did you watch the debates? And if you did watch the debates, what was your impression? Who was the most woke? Because that's a term that's the new popular term now. Are we woke? Well, in your opinion, who was the most woke of the Democrat candidates? Who was the most woke by the way that you define being woke? Now, listen, I don't mean you're not asleep. Okay, we got that. Like, in the way that I'm using it, woke is not the opposite of being asleep. Woke is conscious, aware of the issues, aware of, in particular from the Black experience, aware of even the subtle ways in which racism and white supremacy and systematic racism continue to affect our communities. Okay, that's what I mean by it. And to me, that's as fair as any other lens to view the Democrat candidates. Are you woke? Or are you up on stage talking the same old ish that nobody really believes anymore? I don't know. I got the number, 513-873-7134. I want to get your thoughts about that, and let me know what you think. I got comments coming in from all over the place. Good morning. Good afternoon. The citizenship question will be on 2020 census. The SCOTUS left it open till October. Trust but verify. He's right about that. There is a door that's open. So think about it. You get your U.S. census. They're asking you whether you're a U.S. citizen. Will you answer? Will that make you feel like, I don't want to answer any of this? As I was saying earlier, and I got derailed, but there are some people, and I've heard this, there are some people that would employ the strategy of, we're going to boycott the census. Is that smart? Is that smart in your opinion? You tell me. What would be the best course of action in your humble opinion? We shall see. I'll tell you one thing about these Republicans, man. They think long term. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this. The Heritage Foundation and other conservative so-called think tanks and interest groups, they've had it for a long time in their long-term strategy to make over the makeup of the Supreme Court. Like the Supreme Court is one of those things you don't think about until there's a real issue. Like kind of like stuff on your car. You don't really think about it until something goes wrong. You don't really think about the Supreme Court on a daily basis. Like who wakes up on a regular basis like, I wonder what's going on with the Supreme Court today? Probably some hardcore attorneys. Maybe Donnie B. I know she's an attorney. I don't know. Maybe if you're like, to me, it's the only people that's really worried about it, the people that might be arguing before it. Other than that, most people aren't thinking about the Supreme Court. We think about the Supreme Court when there's a big, big decision and when there's a vacancy. Okay? And when I say we, I'm talking about black folks and I'm talking about other folks. But what I'm saying is we should change that strategy. We should change that strategy. Because, and again, this is long term. You might be talking about 20, 25-year process. Let's go to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
What's going on, Nathan Ivy?
What up? What up?
Hey, this your brother Pal. I love the topic, but Nathan, gerrymandering and redistricting only happens when one thing happens, and that's when your cousins don't vote. Because when the Democrats don't vote outside the presidential election, you're right, Republicans love that. They sit back and wait. Because when you vote for Congress and Senate, everybody knows, and state, those are the ones who redraw the line. So they sit there and love for you to clap and get happy and vote for the presidential election. But there's 3 more years in between that. And when we don't vote, they love it. They're like, there you go. And that's how the Congress and Senate and the state reps are able to redraw those lines, because we have to vote outside of the presidential election. As you know, you just said it. That's what the other side is, mathematicians. They love that because they're able to redraw the line. And it's funny, you just said something, Nathan, it's so deep. When you don't vote, who picks the judges? Which party picks the judges? Those are the ones. So when we go to the Supreme Court and say this system is not fair, well, how is the judge going to vote? Is the judge going to vote against his own interests and his own party? Or the Supreme Court going to say, guess what? It's 5 of us, since y'all don't vote outside the presidential election, we're going to go with this. Which way they going to go? Nathan? Are they going to say we're going to vote against our own interests, our own party? Or are they going to say, guess what? It's legislation and judicial. We're going to put it back on legislation. Since we're judicial, it has nothing to do with us. But guess what? That judge has a party. So it's all strategic. And you're right, they think long term, and they love this presidential strategy of y'all coming out. And when I say y'all, I'm talking about the urban base, the Latino, the poor, the African American, who always get ramped up every 4 years. They love that, because outside those 4 years, look at the numbers, Nathan. You know, the numbers are low. You get like 10%, 3%, 5% in our neighborhoods outside the presidential election. And that's who we draw the lines. So you got an interesting topic. Nathan, I'll ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you look at the debate, I'm going to go to the first one and the second one. Who do you think won the first one? Who do you think won the first one?
The first one,
I'm going to say Elizabeth Warren to help you.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, I would say Elizabeth Warren too. Yeah, she was the first thing that jumped in my head. Not just because, not because she necessarily talked the most, because she didn't, but because the issues that she talks about the most were talked about the most.
I just got off the phone with DC. I'm going to ask you another question they're talking about. Do you think Castro stood out?
I do.
The first debate, Castro.
I do. He did stand out.
Okay. Taking back to, I just talked to people in DC, taking back to yesterday. Do you think Kamala Harris won?
I would say she definitely stood out. So
let me ask you a question.
If by one, so what was Kamala trying to do before she came in? She was trying to make it a 2-person race, her and Joe Biden. She wanted to be the number one person perceived to be the biggest challenger to Joe Biden. I think she did that. So if that's the rubric, then yes, she won.
I had to make sure I only said it on this show, because other people gonna get mad because you and I are black, and they're gonna say we had to go with the black one. Is there things that Biden could have said about her past, as far as her being working at her previous job in California? Could he have came back against her?
He could have.
Okay, my man. Meaning you. I love what you just said. You just talked about the other side. Do you think Trump is gonna hold back on attacking her for her record?
Hell no. It's going to be like
my man. So it's funny you say that. And I was trying to, I can only say certain things to certain people, certain groups. Because if you say certain things to certain people, some people, they're going to get mad at you because you're not African American. They're going to say we shouldn't be saying this, we should be backing her up. But you and I talking strategy. When I was talking to people in D.C. all early this morning, they were saying, pal, as African Americans, you and I both know her history in California is not what everybody's saying that it is. So strategically, you and I saying that, Nathan, what do you think the other side is saying when they hear Kamala Harris winning?
They are.
Do you think Trump is come on, come on,
you
come
know
on,
what it is? The same thing when they start. I bet Trump is doing the same thing that he did when he heard that Hillary
come on,
was going to be the Democrat
come
nominee.
on, come on, come on,
See,
come on. And
what's
Nathan, if
happening?
you and I saying it,
What's happening right now? You know
yeah.
this is that
Come
Republicans
on.
are getting dirt. They're compiling
That's right.
dossiers
Come on,
on
come on,
every
come
single
on. They
Democrat
jumping.
candidate.
Come on, come on. They're jumping up and down because when she hit him, as you said earlier, I was surprised. I thought she wanted the VP, but they said behind closed doors, they made it abundantly known that it wouldn't be her. And so now all of a sudden she got like, I gotta throw the Hail Mary, as you said earlier in politics. Like, you got to swing. If we gonna go down, let's go down fighting. But the key is none of them attacked her. Nobody said that's what your record show. So Nathan, do you think the next election that's gonna come out? Do you think a Democrat would do it or a Republican gonna come out and say, guess what? We know your history or your record.
Oh no,
Which
a
one?
Democrat's gonna do it first. I mean, as they whittle this down,
Ooh.
what? And if she is one of the top three, then everybody else is gonna be gunning from them.
You think they're gonna come?
Didn't Hillary go after Obama?
Okay, well, I'm saying it for a reason. So then you saying Biden and Bernie will attack her as being an African American female, or do you think they'll wait and say, guess what? We know you ain't gonna make it anyway. They're gonna get you anyhow. What do you think gonna happen? Or you think the Republicans gonna get it first? What order is it gonna go in?
Oh, no, it's gonna come from the Democrats first because that process is first.
Okay.
Right, so they got to go through the Democrat process. As they whittle this down, and we get to a top 10, we get to a top 5, top 3. Then whoever's in that top, they're gonna get it.
She's gonna make it.
You already know it.
And so then you think Biden, like I told him earlier, so then you think Biden, Bernie, and Elizabeth Warren is gonna go after her record on public?
It depends.
In a debate?
It depends. Like, if it's in their best interest and it's desperate time, you know what I'm saying? The clock is, you got 3 seconds left and you down by 1, yeah, they're going for the Hail Mary. They're going for it. Again, Hillary went after Obama. Hillary went after Obama.
Do you think, in this scenario, Nathan, do you think that will hurt them more in the black community or it help them?
I think it depends. You know, it's not that Kamala is like embraced the way Obama was early on. It ain't the same thing, but it depends on who it is. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. It depends on how they do it as well. Okay, it's not what you do, but how you do it.
There you go. Now, Nathan, I'm asking something. We talking about this. Some people in D.C. earlier today. Do you think Republicans see this and is gonna put money behind Kamala to make sure that she can get the momentum so they can start fighting each other, divide and conquer? As you said last week, do you think that'll happen?
It's possible.
Do you think Republicans sit back loving to see him fighting, and say, guess what? This is what we're going to do.
I think if you're a Republican, if I'm a Republican strategist, what I want is the most damaged Democrat candidate, right, to come through to be the nominee.
Come on.
That way, Trump has an easier way to beat him. Now, I'm not saying that's Kamala. I'm just saying that's what the Republicans want, right? That's what I would want if I was a Republican strategist. You hit the needle on the head.
It's funny you just said that, like I said earlier, and you don't even know the discussion we just had with people in D.C. Now, Nathan, strategically, watch this. In California, as you know, we ain't going to talk about her previous job. We're not going to put her down. And I say that because when you and I talk this way as being black men, you know what they're going to say about us. I know politics. I know Cincinnati. They're going to say, oh, they dogging her. No, but we're not. We're just talking strategy. If they got all this stuff against her, do you think they had the same thing on Bernie? Do you think they had the same thing on Warren? Do you think they got the same thing on Sanders? Or would she be the one? Because her base look like me and you, that they say, guess what? Let her be the front runner. And then we go through her community, her base, which look like me and you, and we throw all this mud out there at the end. Which one?
Okay, you just kind of lost me. Say that one more time for me, the last part.
Okay, it's only going to be 5. We can get it 5 right now. Bernie, Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala. Would you say, strategically, you and I sit down, would we say we want any one of them to go ahead or her go ahead, and we sit there, wait for the black community, wait to the end, and throw all this mud in her base, which was you and I, and let's get her? Would they go against Bernie first? Would they go against Biden? Would they go against Warren? Or would they wait and say, guess what? She the one. Because her base look like me and you. And we know her base does not like the police. They don't like no judicial. They don't like no prosecutor. They don't like nothing like that. Would they sit back and say, oh, let's push her first? Let's support her. Let her get rah-rah because she'd be the easiest one to beat. Which out of those 5 you think would be the easiest one? That's my question.
Hard to say because they all got a little bit of dirt. They all got some issues that can be exploited.
Okay. I love how you just said, let's go back to what you just said about yesterday. Biden was horrible.
Bernie said the same thing over and over, and Elizabeth Warren wasn't even there. She wasn't even there. So strategically, you saw those, the 1, 2, and 4 fought yesterday, but 3 wasn't there. So if you watch, Biden was horrible, as you know. Everybody's saying something about Bernie. She come with the 1% of the 1% of the. I mean, come on, man, it's a broken record. So she was the one. Okay, guess what? Let's not have a food fight. Let's fight against the food. You saw her all these stories. Do you think it was real substance in the stuff that she said, Nathan?
The stuff that who said
really,
exactly?
Substance that she said, that Kamala said. Do you think there was substance in what she said, or was she telling stories?
About what exactly? Because she said a whole lot. I think there was substance in it.
Okay, watch this. So then she went, as you just said, she went from number 4, which is number 4. What would you give her? Would you give her 1 or 2 now? You think she's gonna go up in the polls?
I would say she's at least top 4.
She already? Yeah, she was number 4.
Yeah, she was already there. So
she's number 4.
I would say that maybe she moved again. See, that's the advantage of being on Thursday night with Joe. You know what I'm saying? Because I'd rather be on Thursday night with Joe than on Wednesday because there's only so much you can do without Joe being there, and he's a perceived front runner right now. But I would say she definitely didn't move down. I say that.
Going back to my original strategy, and you just hit the needle on the head when you talk about how Republicans think. Because what made me so effective, I do the other side. I don't. In sports, as you know, because you the hip hop man. When me and you freestyling, and I'm going against you. I'm going to attack you. I'm going to say, guess what? Your mama, your cousin, or we playing football, I'm going to watch your offense. That way my defense is better. So I'm saying the other side is like, guess what? We got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm telling you, Biden self-destruct. They're like, guess what? We ain't got to worry about dude. Dude is horrible. He can't debate. You just said specifically what everybody in the world is saying. You heard Bernie say the same, 1% of the 1% of the 1. Now, what they got to worry about is the ones that's going to get in there and grow. Which from the bottom to the top. We got the top. I ain't got over the top MC. We got him. Number 2 gone. Number 3 is Warren. And number 4 is all females. And I'm telling you right now, what they saying in D.C., pal, watch out. Because they would love for Kamala to go from 4 to 1. Because the one definitely that Trump would love to go against is Kamala Harris because of her record in California, which nobody has brought out yet. Nobody has hit her. You hear a few blacks saying, guess what? This is her history. This is what she done. We ain't going to vote for her. But the real dirt that everybody's talking about, nobody has hit her yet. And it's surprising to hear you say the Democrats going to do it. I'm surprised because I don't think Democrats will do it because I think Biden, Bernie, and Warren, it'll hurt them. Like the black community, like, oh, you're going against, like you just said with Hillary, it affected her. Like, guess what? Why are you going against that black man? You're supposed to be the Democratic Party. We love y'all. Kumbaya.
Yeah, but I've heard black people. I've heard black people in my audience criticize Kamala Harris for her record as a prosecutor. I've heard that from black folks.
Going back to now, watch what you just said. See now, do you think that they saying, wait a minute, the other side don't know that me and you talking about that? Like, wait a minute, somebody gonna bring this out. Let us go get the dirt right now. And she knows that because I got friends in D.C. That's what her staff is doing as we speak. Like, how do we fix this problem? Because they coming. You know, when we were young, Nathan, how there's only one king in the mountain. These young people don't know about this. You be in the sandbox, like one guy would be up there. We all try to fight to knock him down. I think that what they're saying in D.C. is here they come. And she's making herself more vulnerable because it's just politics. It's a full contact sport, brother. And I'm convinced that people in D.C., like us, get her. We would love for her to grow. Because she's one of the few that they would love to be up there because he will eat her. Oh, my goodness gracious. And me and I can't say it how we really want to say it, or how strategic we really want to say it because blacks are looking at us like, oh, them 2 Negroes going against a black woman, which is not necessarily true. It was outstanding talking to you, good brother.
Hey, thanks for the call. All right, Brother Powell, thanks for the flows, man. Definitely. Appreciate it. Most def. Yeah, thanks for calling into the Is It Just Me podcast. Appreciate it. A lot of things to think about. You know, having said all of that, like, okay, which candidate, that's an interesting way of looking at it. So he's looking at it from the other side, like, which candidate would the Republicans prefer to go against Donald Trump? That's interesting. And for me, I would prefer, I don't know. Like, if I'm Kamala and I'm gonna be pressed on these issues, I almost would prefer to deal with them before you become the nominee, right? Well, because you can sharpen your knives, sharpen your perspective, figure out what your response is before you get into a battle with Donald Trump. Donald Trump's gonna be exactly what he was against Hillary. What did he do? He found a couple little things to use against Hillary, and he wrote it like Zorro. He wrote it like Zorro, wouldn't let it go. Wouldn't let it go. And I would imagine that is exactly what will be the game plan, because that's what my game plan would be. So I never thought about it that way. It's interesting. I'd have to monitor conservative radio, Republican media, things like that to get a sense, and I haven't done that recently. Maybe you have, to get a sense of who they would prefer to go up against Donald Trump. Because, Republicans want the most inferior Democrat candidate. So I don't know that. I'd have to monitor to hear what the Republicans are having to say about it, so I don't really know, but that's interesting. Majestic writes, Bernie and Warren has a chance because the millennials are burdened with student loan debt, and those two in particular are offering free stuff. They have a chance. I like free stuff. I like free stuff too. This is the reason I expect for Julian Castro to be a dark horse to win the Democrat nomination. And the Hispanic vote is strong and influential. Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting. You think that Julian Castro is going to be the dark horse, huh? He's going to come out of nowhere and win a Democrat nomination. If he did, that would be a paradigm shift. That would be a paradigm shift right there. Like, if it went down like that, that would certainly be a wake-up call for the black community, the black electorate, and it would be a paradigm shift. I don't know. I don't know how likely that is or how not likely it is. Leroy writes, great topic. None of the Dem candidates have a worse past than the rapist Trump. I agree. But past means nothing. I mean, it matters, but what matters is you get up on that stage and it's all about, can you make a sound bite stick? That's what it becomes about. It becomes, who's got the best sound bites, right? Not who's the best candidate, who's got the best sound bites. That's what happened with Hillary. She had bad press. Hey, Mr. Avery, thanks for checking in to the Is It Just Me podcast with Donnie B. Listen, thanks for standing me today. I know you tuned in for Donnie B, and unfortunately, she wishes everybody well. She couldn't be here today. She had very important things, to take her away from her podcast. She loves being with you every Friday. And of course, if you haven't already listened to our previous podcast, episode 5, make sure you check that out. You can find it on Spreaker. You can find it on Facebook. Is It Just Me Podcast? That's a Facebook group. If you want to interact directly with Donnie B. And here's what I say. You should go into the group, send her questions and ideas, topics, possible guests that you would like to hear on the Is It Just Me podcast with Donnie B. Thank you so much. Of course, check out episode 5. Can't press that enough. Know your rights. Very important information. And I don't really have any updates to give you, but what I will tell you is that Donnie is very serious and not just about talking about the issues and being outraged. She's about action. And I know for a fact that she has been in contact with some of our lawmakers to see how we can affect the system, change laws to protect our children. So watch this space for updates. And it's been my pleasure sitting in for Donnie B today. Is It Just Me podcast? I've had a blast. Thank you for the calls. I appreciate it. To Drop and Brother Pow there. And please like and share this video. Please like and share this video. It means everything. And we'll be back next Friday with more Is It Just Me podcast with Donnie B. All right. Thank you so much. Let me make sure I got most of your comments and questions in this morning. Hey, Tanika. She writes, hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. I've been on for an hour. It don't even feel like it. Like, literally, it feels like I've been on for 15 minutes. I'm having so much fun. I'm just saying. Hold on a second. Let me jump around here and check out what people have. Let me see. Comments. I'm going to jump inside the Facebook group called Is It Just Me? If you haven't already joined that group and you want to connect directly with Donnie B, get updates, see what's going on in her world, then please check that. That's a great way to directly connect with Donnie B. And she's posting content on a regular directly from her own viewpoint, and you can check it out. All right. Thank you so much. And I'll be back. I'll be back with you on Monday. All right. For the Nathan Ivey Show. Have an excellent Friday from Donnie B and the Is It Just Me podcast. And we'll talk real soon. I'm out.
What? Bro, what are you...